Did it just stop?
Yes.
Okay. So suntan lotion blocks the UVB. Now, UVA, tanning. UVB, cholesterol conversion. UVC, which I'm not going to talk about, is absorbed in the ozone layer. Now, there's going to be some important stuff. The major biologic function of vitamin D is to maintain normal blood levels of calcium and phosphorus. Vitamin D aids in the absorption of calcium from the blood to form and maintain strong bones. So vitamin D actually gets the calcium from the blood. That's the purpose of vitamin D. As a note, vitamin F, and in our practice we use flax oil, Cataplex F, and Super EFF from standard process labs to transfer calcium to the skin. If you get cold sores easy, you may need calcium lactate or citrate. You might need vitamin D. You might need vitamin F. And I'm not trying to confuse you, because it's a combination of a lot of things. Now I have some people that will go to Florida during the winter time, and they'll come back with cold sores, or they get burned really easy, because the sun is different down there than it is up here. You have to make sure you have enough calcium. I firmly believe in my heart that a lot of people get colds and the flu during the wintertime because we don't have enough sunshine, we don't have enough calcium, we don't have enough vitamin D. And there's other areas that we'll talk about that D affects your body. Old injuries can start to bother you once you supplement with vitamin D because you're going through healing. More calcium is moving through your body. That'll usually go away in about a week or so. I'm of the opinion from my clinical-based evidence that vitamin D may protect osteoporosis. That's important, ladies, because how many of you are told that you're going to have a broken hip? So what I'm just going to share with all of you that are patients, over time, it depends what your lab will allow you to do or your insurance, you should get your vitamin D tested. Now, once again, from my observation, you really want D probably from around October to May. And once you're in the sun, I don't think it's as important. But during the wintertime, you really want this vitamin D. Okay? And it's a blood test, so it's not like you have to go through a fancy machine or anything. Hypertension can be affected by lack of vitamin D because vitamin D has everything to do with calcium absorption in your body. If you don't have enough calcium, your blood vessels and your heart muscles aren't going to relax. You have a greater chance to have high blood pressure. That's why I asked a lot of you to be here today, because you have high blood pressure issues. Now, there's other information I didn't have written down here that individuals can have an obesity problem because if you don't have enough vitamin D, you have an interruption of calories and fat burning inside of your body. People who consume a lot of fat, the wrong type of fat, interrupts vitamin D in the body. You can have PMS and diabetes, which we'll talk about, because of not enough vitamin D inside of the body. You can have cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer. A lot has to do with something called phagocytosis, which we'll talk about in a moment. Blood sugar issues, autoimmune diseases, periodontal disease. When I take x-rays of people's mouths and they're loaded with fillings, and it's now periodontal disease is gum disease. When you're loaded with fillings, I know you have a phosphorus and a calcium imbalance in your body. Flus and colds. When do people get flus and colds? During the wintertime. It has to do everything with sunshine, calcium, and vitamin D. Rickets and osteomalacia are classic vitamin D deficiency diseases. In children, vitamin D deficiency causes rickets, which results in skeletal deformities. In adults, vitamin D can lead to osteomalacia. When I look at your x-rays, a side view of your low back x-ray, and I see the disc bulging into the spine, I know you have soft bone. It often comes from eating sugar, smoking cigarettes, and not enough vitamin D. You have muscle weakness, weak bones. Populations who may be at risk for vitamin D deficiencies include the elderly, obese people, exclusively breastfed infants, unless, of course, the mom is aware of her food intake. I got that piece from literature, and I wanted to say, a lot of times, supposedly healthy kids who are not breastfed is because they had all this fake vitamin D going into them from all the formula. So I just want to throw that out, just for those watching me wherever you are in the world. And those who have limited sun exposure. Do you know, like, the people in Alaska don't have an issue with vitamin D? Because of the fish. And the fish get their vitamin D from the plants. So it's all in what you're eating. And can I make a little side note? don't eat farm-raised fish. Because farm-raised fish usually don't have a lot of really healthy items in them. You really want to be exposed to the sun, because the sun is what converts all the cholesterol to the vitamin D. Individuals have fat malabsorption syndromes or inflammatory disease, such as Crohn's disease, because the vitamin D is affected by what's going on inside of your intestines. Vitamin D can promote soft tissue calcification. Calcification is the process in which the mineral calcium builds up in soft tissue, causing it to harden. Calcifications may be classified on whether it's mineral balance or not and the location. I see this on x-rays. If I see someone who's drinking a lot of pop, a lot of soda pop, and they have high phosphorus in their body, which means their vitamin D is going to be altered, I see calcified ribs. Now, this is an important little bullet here. On the other hand, and this is important, if you're taking vitamin D and you notice your skin is itching, very important, you may need to increase your calcium and your magnesium supplementation. If you do not have enough calcium, your body will take it from wherever it can in the body. Clinically, you can have someone complete the leg blood pressure cuff test and determine how much calcium you may need. So I wrote a book, as you know, Dr. Bob's Drugless Guide to Balancing Female Hormones. In that book, we have the blood pressure cuff test. If you're taking D and your skin is itching, you can put this blood pressure cuff on your leg, pump it up to 200. If it doesn't go to 200, put a couple calciums in your mouth. You can take up to 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day, calcium citrate or lactate. Balance it with magnesium so you don't get constipated. Vitamin D inhibits parathyroid hormone secretion from the parathyroid gland. A common body signal, now listen to this, of parathyroid challenge can be found in Group 2 of the Health Survey Form, which is on my website, number 31, hoarseness frequent. Now you say, well, Dr. Bob, who cares about that? If you have chronic tendinitis and this gland is not working, that gland can affect your calcium and your vitamin D and your phosphorus absorption in your body. So you can find out by doing a health survey. Now, this next nugget is critical. So I was just kind of pondering about why is everybody having such a vitamin D issue today. And just like I was wondering why did everybody have ADHD and why do all women have breast cancer and why does everybody have all this other. So I said, Lord, I want to know why we are having a vitamin D epidemic in the world. And so it took about 2 months, but he finally showed up and gave me the answer. As a side note, I was wondering why we have such a need for vitamin D. So I became inquisitive in the fact that we may be having an epidemic of vitamin D deficiencies because of, you see what I just said? Poor sugar metabolism. Now listen to this. When your body does not or cannot utilize carbs, it will create energy and fuel by burning muscle tissue. It's called catabolism. So I want all of you tonight to go home and Google. Don't you just love Google? Go home and Google catabolism. Just check out Dr. Bob. Muscle catabolism is for burning fuel. So when you don't have that muscle, see that muscle, and you have those flabby arms, we call those happy Helens. It results in more phosphorus in your body. Why? Because the muscle's being broken down. And I see that in hair analysis. I see high phosphorus, which I believe has a huge impact on vitamin D because more vitamin D is needed to metabolize the calcium because calcium and phosphorus work hand in hand. You have 10 parts calcium, 4 parts phosphorus. When there's abundance of phosphorus, you're going to need to get more D. Why? Because the D is needed to make the calcium. Ponder that. Now, isn't that profound? And I am going to tell you. Let's say I've done 5,000 hair analysis. I'll tell you 90% of them, guess what they all have? High phosphorus. Because they all have... How many of you, I'll close my eyes, how many of you had punchkis this week? I mean, think about, but you had something sweet. You know, even though your patient's a doctor, Mom, it's okay. It might sound like Barack Obama. It's okay. My impersonation, okay? It's not okay! Okay, now this is also really big right here. This is probably one of the most important points I'm going to tell you. Ready? Vitamin D affects the immune system. Big word. By promoting phagocytes. Do you remember, I'm going to take you all back a long time ago. Video games. You remember the first video game? Ping pong. Ping ping. They had one paddle at first.